hear you're ready for your dose of reality. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Quack Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Quack.
And I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem. Today is kind of a controversial topic because there's so many different ways to do it. We're just going to be talking about the generalities of this and trying to put over how important the match order is. We're talking about Booking 101, match order. We're talking about who you put against who, why you put them against why, and how you build a story to try and bring more people back.
That's right, folks. Welcome to Booking 101. Here we are. And let me tell you, it's not as easy as everybody says it is because, like you just said, there are many variations to this.
Yes, and when you're doing work as a booker, you're trying to figure out what personalities, wrestling-wise, what gimmicks, wrestling-wise, may or may not go together. The old axiom of opposites attract generally applies. You don't want two meatheads or two muscle-bound oafs working each other. You don't want two high flyers generally working each other that both do the same kind of match. You want a variety. You want to bring together a different outlook because sometimes opposites attract. Owen Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, prime example. Gold happens when you bring two opposites together.
That's right. Today we're going to do a 7-match set. This is generally what most independent wrestling should do, 7. Some do 8, some do 6. But we're going to start at 7 here. We're going to start with the first match.
Yeah, when we're talking the sets here, it's going to be 7 matches with 3 other things. Other things are promos, intermissions, put over segments, anything like that. So we're talking about 7 matches with 3 other things happening. So we're going to start off first. When you think about the opening of your match or opening of your show, this is after you've already played the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, or something along those lines, introduced to welcome the crowd in. You want to have something that normally is a decent match, but not your top tier match. And what we mean by that is WWE has had a habit of booking the heavyweight champ or the women's champ in the opening match, and we think that's not the best place to put it.
No, it's not. I mean, really what you want to do for your opening match is you definitely want to have a rivalry in there. This is the opening of your show. As I always say in my other segments here, setting the table. You've got to have a match that sets the table. This is putting out the silverware. You want something that the fans are going to be attracted to.
Yeah, normally a cruiserweight kind of match, or like you said, a good grudge match, something that the fans have kind of cared about, but not the one that's drawing them there is a good idea. Thinking right now, maybe the Bobby Lashley match would not be a good one, but the Sheamus and Matt Riddle maybe would be a nice feud if they didn't have the U.S. title. That's a feud that the crowd kind of cares about. That would be a good opening match, giving a modern appearance of what we're talking about.
And one thing not to book on your opening match, and I've seen this done and it's not a good thing, do not book a squash match. Word of the day, squash. That's where they get beat like there's one-sided ass kicking.
Yeah, squash matches are not done a lot anymore. They were mostly done to build monsters. The last time I can think of they did squash matches with a regular basis was when they first introduced Braun Strowman, when they brought out James Ellsworth to get destroyed on television. They don't really do those anymore. The reason you don't squash match an opening match, one, it's too short. The crowd may not always be in the arena. And 2, if you have such a short match, the crowd doesn't have time to get into it, and then you're waiting till like halfway through the show before the crowd really wakes up. Your opening match, you want to wake that crowd up. You want to give them a reason to be there. You want to give them a reason to come back. And you want them to have interest in the rest of your matches up to your halfway point.
Exactly. Match number 2.
Match number 2 usually should be in a direct opposite style of match number 1. So, if match 1, as an example that we just used, the Matt Riddle and Sheamus match, which is a 2 no-nonsense, kind of hard-hitting guys, your second match should either be somebody who's brand new and trying to get over with the crowd, or a meathead, or a high-flyer match. Something that is direct opposite of what your first match is. The reason for that is it gives that crowd the variety. If they didn't like the first match, maybe they like the second match. Not every match is going to go out there is going to be a 5-star classic. Guys have bad nights. That's why you want to give them a variety right off the get-go.
I mean, in those matches there, I mean, they also refer to them as the bathroom break match. They usually go about 8 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, 8 to 10 minutes. If you have a match where you're trying to debut somebody new, match 2 or match 3 usually are the places to put them, because the hardcore will watch them, but if people are trying to settle in, they didn't miss a lot, but they can hear about the crowd reactions and maybe come back out later and check on them. But usually, like I said, match 1, match 2, you want to have direct opposites so that you give the crowd that variety right off the get-go.
There we go. Let's go to segment 3.
Segment 3 usually should be some sort of wake up, what's going on as far as a promo, a new introduction, your general manager, if you have one, coming out telling people what's coming up, welcoming in the sponsors, welcoming in the advertising, thanking you for being there. And like I said, if you had Jim Duggan coming in, or if you had AJ Styles coming in, or you had CM Punk coming in, this is the time you want to let people know they're coming in. This is also, if you don't have something like that, this is the time you start building up your heat. Not your shine, your heat for the main event. So your bad guy, if it's a title match, we're going to go Bobby Lashley against Drew McIntyre, just so we have clear defined roles. This is the time Drew McIntyre, or not Drew McIntyre, but Bobby Lashley and MVP should come out here and cut a promo, making people not want to like Bobby Lashley. They should want people to be cheering for Drew McIntyre going into the halfway point of the show. So whether you're introducing somebody, introducing your sponsors, or building up heat for your main event, segment 3, the first non-wrestling segment should be that.
Exactly right. Then you want to keep that, table set there. You want to keep it rolling. So number 4.
Number 4, this is where you're starting bringing them down the roller coaster, because you're going to take them back up. This is usually going to be your second best match of the night. But it should be a title match, a secondary title, or a gimmick match, or the main feud of the show if it's not a title match. So, as we talked about, a good example here would have been the AJ Styles and the New Day. Yes. That would be an excellent example of the number 4 match going in. Because the crowd, it's up, the crowd is going to want to see it. It's something they really care about. Something the crowd can get behind, but it's not your main event, but more often than not, they will perform and take the crowd into segment 5 happy.
That's right. In segment 5, what would you call that, sir?
Segment 5. Now, we have a little bit of difference on this one, so we're going to discuss the intermission, which on an independent show, it is highly encouraged for you to have an intermission. There are some promoters who choose not to, and that, I want to flat out say it, is stupid. You're killing half of your business by not giving people time to go to the concession stands, not go to the merchandise table. But I prefer 1 intermission, and Dr. Quack prefers 2. So we're going to let Dr. Quack start on why you do 2, because I've been talking a lot.
Well, I let him go, man. But look, two intermissions. This is a good reason for it, because you have that first intermission. You can have the heels come out, and they can either sign autographs, and they can pose for pictures and things like that. And you have that other intermission, which you can use probably before the main event, where you have the baby faces come out. People are excited. They're talking to people. They're buying food for the main event to sit down. They're buying more stuff, which is putting more money in the promoters' pockets and the wrestlers' pockets.
All right, and those are actually very good reasons. I prefer the one intermission from the standpoint of as long you can let some of your guys, as long as it's not the first match after the intermission, if they want to go out and sign some, you can have the heels on one side, the faces on the other, and the concession stand in between them. Give the crowd a little more time to interact with everybody so that they get all of that at one time. I feel the second intermission usually kills the flow of the show just a little bit because it's usually done right before the main event. Some people will do 2 matches after the second intermission. Either way, I think it kills the flow of the crowd. I do one longer instead of a 10-minute or 15-minute. I'm okay with a 20 to 25-minute intermission. Give people time to stand up, meet the wrestlers, go to the bathroom, get some food, time to eat the food so they don't have the beer in their hand in case the next match is not good. They're throwing stuff.
The big thing you don't do, okay? Heels and baby faces, they do not merge together out there. You keep them separate if you're going to have them out together.
But for you wrestlers out there, this is not the time to cut promos. This is not time to build your match. So heels stay on one side, faces stay on the other. Don't argue with each other. The crowd will get distracted. The crowd will quit buying things because they're watching what you're doing instead of buying your merchandise or buying food from the concession stand. Leave the promos for the ring, not at the merch or autograph table.
There you go. Now let's go to segment 6.
Segment 6 should be a decent match, similar to the opening match, which we're gonna discuss this term, curtain jerker. It's not gonna be a kayfabe word of the day because the curtain jerker really doesn't exist anymore like it used to. The original term was for the lowest guy on the card, or what they call the entry guy. Used to be the curtain jerker. Nowadays, people understand the curtain jerker should be a decent match. So we're going to go away with the derogatory term curtain jerker, but your first match out of intermission shouldn't be a match to overwork people, but it should still be something that people care about. A hot new talent that just came into the territory would be a good one to be the first match out of the intermission. A #1 contenders match would be a good one to get out of the intermission.
I like a tag match here because I feel like right afterwards, people love to see tag matches. You know, they're really excited. I like to save those towards the middle of the card. That's just how I feel.
And tag team matches, the nice thing about tag team matches, they can be slower and still draw the attention of the crowd because of heat and shine. Things that good workers do of making that crowd upset at what's happening. You don't have to work them very hard because the crowd, after they bought the merch, they go to the bathroom, they have their hot dog, they have their beer, they have their nachos. They may want to take just a minute. And a tag team match, as the doctor mentioned, is a really good example of that. And like I said, a #1 contenders match, a lot of times those start out slow because they don't want the story is they don't want to make a mistake, so they tend to start out slower. Women's matches tend to start out a little slower. These are good places. Let the crowd settle in after that first intermission to get ready to handle the second half of the show.
That's right. Number 7.
Number 7, usually this is your second promo segment, something like that, because you're starting to go take it home as far as the show is concerned. You're starting to build up, all right, you know, next week's show, we've got this match already signed, or next week the champion's going to be defending against this person, or we're going to have a hot, you know, anniversary show. So usually segment 7 or segment 8. These two are flip-flopping, so we'll talk about them both together. The second match, or your match 7 or segment 7, match 8 or segment 8, whichever one it turns out to be, usually is the match that is the weakest of your card. So if you want to go into a weakness, then you can talk about it, bring the people up, or you talk people up and then you bring them down just a little bit, getting ready to go in the semi and the main event. So this is another time where you're going to have two people, maybe two students, work each other to show off for their friends a little bit. They sold some tickets to see their friend, to have their friends watch them. This is time for segment 7, segment 8, with going into what's going to happen on the next show.
I mean, I look more towards almost like a squash on this and going into it because, you know, you want to have one of the two guys out there having some experience and having some heat. I love to have a heel squash out there.
That's another good example. Again, it's one of those matches where the crowd is not going to get super into it, like I say, with the new guys, the greenhorns. But a squash match, a lot of people don't tend to get into a lot because they're usually really predictable.
Yeah, pretty much are one-sided beatdowns. It's the way you want to keep it. You know, like you were saying, segment 8 there with the promo.
Yeah, like I said, 7 and 8 are intermixed. You could do the promo first, and then you could have that monster come out who's getting ready to be on your next show, squash somebody, and he's going to be taking on the champion next show. Or you have the two guys, hey, what'd you think of these new talent? These are our students, so if you want to join our class, here, that's what we mean by they're intermixable.
That's right. Number 9.
Number 9, your semi-main event. Usually this is your 4th best match on the card. It's going to be something people kind of care about. Usually it should be a little bit shorter. Something that's going to not take away from the main event, so you don't want a hot cruiserweight or a hot ladder match in your semi-main because it'll take away from your main event. The thing people came there to see. But it also at the same time, it should be something that they do care about. It should not be a popcorn match. Your popcorn match was 7 and 8, right in there, to kind of finish off the last of whatevers. You want it to be something decent, but not take away from the main event. So if your main event, again, we're going to Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre, this would be a good place to put your women's match, or your women's tag match, or a number 1 contender for your Intercontinental title, or
a specialty match.
A specialty match. That's another good idea right there as well. Now, if your main event is a specialty match, say your champion's fighting on the show, but you brought in Jerry the King Lawler to work Jerry Lynn, 2 guys that aren't working anymore, but just as an example. They're scheduled to wrestle. They would be your main event. So here's Champion 9, because your champion's not going to take away from the main event. They came to see those national names. So you have to be a little careful. This is what we mean by it's not an exact science. It all depends on what your main event is and what your show is trying to sell 2, 3, 4, 5 shows down the road.
And one thing I want to mention in between here, concession stands. Look, you guys are very important to this show, and don't ever anybody ever tell you different, because let me tell you, make sure that fan is blowing on that popcorn. Make sure that smell is going out in the arena, because that's how people buy stuff. They get hungry.
Yes.
But I want to bring up number 10.
Number 10, your main event.
That's
the
right.
Perfect 10. It should be the match that you put on your sign, your poster. It should be the one that's in all of your advertising. If you do spend some money on some advertising, billboards, radio spots, local television spots, whatever that main event should be. Again, we're talking about Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. That's a main event, and that's what should be what you're talking about. You shouldn't have everybody on your poster. That's your main event. That's what you should talk about. If you were bringing in the aforementioned match that will never happen, Jerry Lynn against Jerry Lawler. If that's what you're, or actually let's change it up. You're bringing them into for an autograph segment signing, and they're going to, you know, have a small little thing with your champion. That's still your main event. You know, similar to what you see sometimes on WWE, the signing of the contract. You know, that's a main event for a reason, because it's an unknown. Crowd's going to pay to see those unknowns. So you have to figure out what your main event is, what your fans want to see, and then put the rest of your matches in order based upon a flow of the show, like a roller coaster.
And we're not saying this is directly how you do it. There's, like I said, many ways to do this. When it comes to autograph signings, the way I've always learned is if you're going to have an autograph signing, you want that before the show. You want to have that booked 2 hours before the show, and you want to have them there right before the show ends.
Usually yes. Usually yes, but some people want to be involved in the show.
Yes.
I was on a show with Bret Hart. Bret Hart did not want to do anything with the show. He wanted what he said the 2 hours prior, sign the autograph, shake the hands, take the pictures, kiss the babies, and then he wanted to go back to his room and relax. That's his prerogative. That's what you paid him to do. So, one other thing I want to say about it, it's not an exact science. A roller coaster, promoter, you want to listen to those crowd reactions. If you're putting matches in the order that we suggested and the crowd gets flat, shake it up.
Yes.
That's why it's not an exact science. You have to cater to your crowd. Yes, it is true you don't do what they tell you, it's your show, but you want them to come back. So don't give them exactly what they want. If they want Daniel Bryan to win, make him win 6 or 7 shows down the road. Keep getting him just that close, that close, that close. They keep coming back, paying for it. So don't give the crowd what they want, but make them want to come back and see it happen eventually. So listen to your crowd. If you're finding that they go up and then they drop and don't come back up, move some things around. That's you as the promoter. It's your money, your contract's on the line, so you should be the one that ultimately listens for what's going on. And that booker.
Yes, you guys work together. Booker and promoter, they come hand in hand. Big thing I want to explain too, do not have the same finishes going, one after another. You want to have a good mix. You don't want to be predictable. You don't want to go, oh, baby heel, baby heel, baby heel. No. You want to have some unpredictability where fans are not just bored out of their minds.
Yes, generally in storytelling purposes, heels win 70% of the matches. The reason that is because the more the babyface gets beat up, the more of an underdog they become, the more the fans love an underdog who comes back to win the match at the end of the program. So, don't be afraid to put over those heels. It's important. They're needed. But you also don't want to destroy them like WCW did, having the NWO run so roughshod over everybody that nobody cared anymore. So you have to, it's a balancing act again. Just what we were saying, about 70-30 is the general theory, but whatever works for you and your fans, that's the right answer.
And there we go, folks. That is our 6th edition of Dear Independent Wrestling. We're talking about Booking 101. What are we doing next?
So to tarry off of booking, you also have to now know how to build a gimmick, advance and modify a gimmick, and create a gimmick that people care about. Because what people care about is your gimmick. So if you can't build a gimmick, nobody's going to care what you do. So we're going to show you some tricks on how to build a gimmick or make your gimmick mean something.
That's right. Make sure you tune in next time for Gimmick Creator 101. I'm your host, Dr. Quack.
And I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem, saying make sure when you go to an independent show, you give an honest assessment, fans. If you like the show or you like the segment, don't boo it just because you want to be an ass. Yes, I'm calling you fans an ass that do that on purpose. Give those promoters honest feedback so they can make the show something you truly want to watch.
And give us some feedback too. Tell us if we're right or wrong on these videos, because we're continuing this docu-series, and we're out.